If you spent any amount of time on the internet from 2009 onward, then chances are you know what the webcomic Homestuck is. Well, 5 years after its announcement, the first episode of the game based on the famous and/or infamous webcomic was finally released in 2017. What's up everyone, I'm Jacob with the Leaderboard, and I'm here to give you the quick scoop on all of the craze surrounding Hiveswap and what it all means. Put on your favorite troll horns and get ready, here are 7 facts about Hiveswap. It's hard to talk about Hiveswap without getting into the troubled history of its funding. The project was announced on September 4th, 2012 by Homestuck's creator, Andrew Hussie. Hussie revealed the project on Kickstarter, and the page had a trailer with it as well, which, for anyone who didn't know what Homestuck was, probably felt like it was some sort of ultra shitpost from YouTube. The trailer was nuts. It looked like a giant highlight reel for the webcomic. The project had a lofty goal of $700,000. Well, it would have been a lofty goal for anyone else in the world, but Homestuck was at its peak in 2012, and as a result, the funding goal was met in less than 32 hours. Once the funding and campaigning was done, the total funded amount was over $2.4 million. A lot of the pledge promises were exclusive merch, an art book, signed prints, plushies, tote bags, and just a mix of everything you could imagine. Those perks were shipped out in early 2013, a year ahead of the game's scheduled release date, but eager fans would have to wait for a playable copy of the game itself. Development on the Homestuck game was meant to begin once the webcomic was finished. Hussie had envisioned that the webcomic was going to end in 2013, which was a year after the Kickstarter announcement. However, Hussie took a handful of breaks or pauses over the course of 3 years. On April 13th of 2016, Homestuck finally ended with a 9-minute animated short called Act 7. So how does that fit into the time frame for Hiveswap? Hussie had mentioned that he took these pauses in order to focus his attention on the game. Development originally started with The Odd Gentleman, however, in October of 2014, Hussie made an update to the game's progress and noted that development had shifted in-house under the production company, which was What Pumpkin Studios. This meant that Hussie and What Pumpkin had to create an entirely new development team from scratch. The update also mentioned the game's official title, Hiveswap, and Hussie noted that it was going to be an episodic adventure series with 2 possible games in the works. In September of 2015, writer Cohen Edenfield announced on his Twitter that he started his first day as the head writer on Hiveswap, the first change in a series of shakeups for the game. 2 months later, in December of 2015, Hussie made a huge Kickstarter update which outlined all of the changes the game had gone through. Notably, the biggest change was the shift from being a 3D game to a 2D point-and-click adventure game. The update also noted that Hussie had to let go part of the development team that was based in New York City due to the limited funding left for the game. Edenfield explained that the broad plot and narrative points were planned out before he came on board, but then he and Hussie then refined everything, leading to some changes in gameplay, the narrative, and some bigger character changes. Edenfield said he wrote in total 150,000 words of script for the game. This includes dialogue, narration, and item descriptions. That is a lot of writing. Luckily, Edenfield was ready for that. He had just finished his master's degree in English literature 3 days prior to Hussie calling him up and asking him to do some freelance writing for what Edenfield referred to as the Homestuck adventure game. He was originally signed on to write about 200 jokes and eventually was given more to write and punch up until a few months later when he was finally hired full-time as head writer. You see everyone, English degrees can be useful. We don't blame you if the timeline for Hiveswap is a bit difficult to follow. The game was announced in 2012 via Kickstarter and was promised a 2014 release date, but due to all the delays with Homestuck itself, that release year was just impossible. After Hussie's Kickstarter update in December of 2015, there wasn't too much news on Hiveswap's release date until October of 2016. A new trailer was revealed which was titled Hiveswap Act 1. The trailer showcased the game's new art style and gameplay mechanics. It was a complete 180 from what the Kickstarter trailer showed, and the trailer also promised a January 2017 release date. But then, the game got delayed again. In April of 2017, another trailer was released for Hiveswap which showcased more gameplay and elements of the story. However, this trailer didn't have a release date attached to it. Rather, What Pumpkin released a statement on their Tumblr stating that the next trailer would reveal the final release date. Sure enough, on August 29th of 2017, a launch trailer for Hiveswap was revealed. The trailer revealed a release date of September 14th, 2017, and after multiple delays and shifts in development, the first episode did in fact release on that day. It was also announced that day that What Pumpkin and Homestuck are partnering with Viz Media to come out with some other fun releases for both Homestuck and Hiveswap, including re-releasing the Homestuck books. The story of Hiveswap is an interesting one. A brother and sister are playing in their backyard when suddenly they're attacked by a scary monster. The brother runs into his treehouse for shelter while the sister runs away into her room. Now she must escape and save her brother. We later find that the sister, Joey Claire, actually swapped places with a troll from the planet Alternia, so she has to communicate with a band of rebel trolls in order to return back home. Oh, also, she has to stop a doomsday weapon that threatens both her world and Alternia. So, you know, no pressure. The game takes place in 1994, and the game uses this year as a means to make light of just all the weird stuff that happened in the 90s. Everything ranging from Teddy Ruxpin to Street Sharks to even those creepy puppy surprise toys, those are all fair game in Hiveswap. There are, of course, plenty of Homestuck references scattered throughout Hiveswap as well, but Hussey wanted the game to feel like a self-contained story, and it is. Homestuck is more of a backdrop and a pulse to give this game life, but someone with zero knowledge of what Homestuck is can go into Hiveswap and still have a great time. The main connector being the trolls and their planet, Alternia. The gameplay of Hiveswap is rather simple but extremely detailed, just like Homestuck. It's a point-and-click adventure game with endless possibilities. The main draw for Hiveswap is how nearly every single object in the game can be interacted with and interact with any usable object as well. This core gameplay was the formula that made Homestuck so special in its peak. While the game is primarily a point-and-click adventure, there is combat too. Well, sort of. Rather than traditional battles, there are strifes, which serve as puzzles more than anything else. There's no real way to lose or die in Hiveswap, but rather only make yourself seem like a fool at times. The strifes are beaten through trial and error, and even if the player loses them, all that unfolds are funny dialogue, quips, and interactions. And while the gameplay is very different from what was originally pitched for the Homestuck game, it actually feels like Homestuck at its core, and that's what matters most. One of the more unique elements for Hiveswap was that every important cutscene in the game was animated and drawn by hand. The beautiful animation work for Hiveswap is in large part thanks to Angela Sham, who was the game's animation director. The musical scores and cues for Hiveswap feel like nostalgic 8-bit tunes with some contemporary inspiration mixed in. It makes sense since the two composers of the soundtrack were James Roach and Toby Fox. James Roach is a composer based in Los Angeles. He has a SoundCloud page with an endless amount of video game music that he created from scratch. Most of the pieces he's created are chiptune remixes of popular video game soundtracks and cartoon themes. Toby Fox is easily known as the man who created the indie hit Undertale. Fox actually got his start writing music for the Homestuck comics as a fan. Eventually, Hussey took notice of Fox's musical chops and kept him in mind for Hiveswap. Fox not only contributed to the game's music, but also he served as a creative consultant for the game. The music was easily one of the biggest standouts for the game, so much so that covers were already being made just days after its release. Roach felt that the soundtrack was an homage to all of his favorite video game music growing up. The reception for Hiveswap Act 1 was generally very positive from both critics and fans. Many fans of the game, both Homestuck devotees and newcomers alike, have praised the game for its unique charm and heartfelt story. Polygon gave the game an 8 out of 10 and noted that the first episode had a lot to see and was for anyone looking for a lighthearted adventure. The biggest surprise that came from fans of the game and reviewers was how accessible the story feels whether the player was a fan of Homestuck or not. Act 2 is nowhere in sight, but Roach did state on his Twitter on September 12th of 2017 that there was a song in Act 2 that came to him in his dream. He also noted that we wouldn't see it, quote, for a bit. How long is a bit? Well, we can only hope that it'll be sooner rather than later. And there you have it. Once again, I'm Jacob, and thanks for watching 7 Facts about Hiveswap. Have you played Act 1 yet? Did we miss anything? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of our notification squad, and if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts.